Chapter 258. The Return to Nazareth. After 10 arduous days of travel, Joseph with his family arrived safely in the land of Israel, where they rested on a hill with a few people who dwelt there and earned their livelihood by raising cattle. Here Joseph made close inquiries about all the conditions in his homeland. But when he heard from these people that Archelaus now reigned after his father Herod, and that he was still more cruel than his father, a great fear came over Joseph and all of his family. And he thought to turn back and journey to Egypt again, or instead to Tyre. For although while in Egypt he had learned by the mouth of James that Archelaus now reigned in Jerusalem, he had not heard that this king actually exceeded his father in cruelty. And it was this news which made Joseph so fearful that he wanted to turn back again at once. Mary did indeed speak to him and ask, "Joseph, it was the Lord himself who told us to go. Why should we fear the human king Archelaus more than the Lord?" Joseph replied, "O Mary, my dearly beloved wife, your question cannot be denied. But I also know that the ways of the Lord are often truly incomprehensible, and that he often leads his own through death, beginning with Abel. Therefore I now fear that the Lord will lead me through death also. And the more I consider the cruelty of this new king in Jerusalem, the more probable does this possibility appear to me. On that account, I have also decided to turn back again tomorrow morning. Truly, if the Lord has our death in mind, then let him rather send lions, tigers, and hyenas over us than Archelaus." Thus Joseph firmly decided to turn back. But during the night, the Spirit of the Lord came over Joseph in a dream, and Joseph received the order from God himself to go to Nazareth. Thereupon Joseph promptly arose and went his way very early. And that very day he came into the little towns of the land of Galilee. And late that night he came to the town of Nazareth, where he took permanent residence, so the word of the prophet would be fulfilled, which states, "He shall be called a Nazarene." Chapter 259. Cornelius discovers the little caravan. Now where did Joseph live in Nazareth? Where did he dismount and where did he enter? It was told in the early chapters, which dealt with Joseph's departure from Bethlehem for Egypt, that Joseph had asked the wealthy Salome in Bethlehem to lease his little farmstead by Nazareth for him. Did Salome do this? Yes, she not only did what Joseph asked, but also bought the little farmstead for herself with this double intent. In the event Joseph or a child of his should ever return, to give them full possession of the property, but otherwise to keep this so highly venerated place for herself in memory of the exalted family. She considered this place to be such a shrine that she did not feel free to live in it herself, and still less did she take renters into it. But so she could live close to this property, she bought a neighbouring acre in addition, and there built a quite attractive little house, wherein she dwelt with her servants, and was occasionally visited there by Cornelius. And it just so happened this day that Cornelius, while on his way back from official duties, paid a visit to Salome at the time Joseph returned to Nazareth. It was a glorious evening. The moon was full, and not a cloud dimmed the least little star in the sky. This beautiful evening drew Salome and Cornelius to the roof of her attractive little house, which sat fairly close to the main road, and directly faced Joseph's little farmstead toward the east, at a distance of about 70 fathoms. Both often looked toward the erstwhile dwelling place of the Holy Family, and Cornelius, as he had done several times before, said to Salome, "I still see the occasion in Bethlehem before me vividly, as if in a very beautiful and exalted dream, and this farmstead constantly reminds me of it. But more than that, the occasion in Bethlehem was of such wondrous grandeur that it constantly becomes more enigmatical to me the more I think about it." And Salome said, "Yes, friend Cornelius, I too cannot grasp how I was able to stay alive at the greatness of that occurrence. But that is the difference between me and you, that I now, as you know, cannot help myself and must always worship the child in my heart, while you look upon the whole matter more as sublime history. Therefore, I have pictured it in my spirit a number of times as follows. If this family should ever come here again, I could not live for happiness. If they lived over there on the little farm, oh God, what a feeling that would give me! Truly, the highest heavens would then be together on this roof." Cornelius agreed. "Yes, you are right. That would also be a most exalting experience for me. But what would we do now if, I make the supposition, this truly exalted divine family came along, and we recognized them from a distance?" At this, Salome declared, "Oh, friend, do not speak of that. That would kill me for joy." While the two were thus conversing on the roof in a manner pleasing to God, and it had already become quite late, Cornelius noticed a procession like a little caravan at a distance of about 200 fathoms, and said to Salome, "Just look over there, a migration still late at night. Do you suppose they are Greeks or Jews?" "Salome, what would you do now if that were none other than the most exalted family?" Salome was altogether frightened at this, and objected, "Now I beg you, do not always talk about it, and do not always renew wishes in me which cannot be fulfilled. What then would you do on such a most joyful occasion?" Here Cornelius replied, "Truly, I too would fare badly. But look, the caravan comes to a stop, and I see one of its members hurry directly toward us. Come, let us see who he is." And they went to meet the man. Now the man was a son of Joseph, who went with a jug to get water from the house. But neither of them recognized him, for thus the Lord wanted it for the sake of their well-being. Chapter 260. On the outskirts of Nazareth. When Joel had dipped the water, he asked the two how far it still was to Nazareth. And Cornelius replied, "My friend, look over there, and you can easily see the walls of the town. A child can easily reach them in a quarter hour. Therefore, you are now as good as in Nazareth itself." Joel thanked them for this information and carried the water to his people. When he arrived there, Joseph promptly asked him what he had learned at the little house. Joel replied, "A woman and a man came toward me in a very friendly manner, gave me water, and told me that we had already reached the town of Nazareth. Thereupon I thought, if that is the town, then we surely do not have far to go to our farmstead. Here Joseph said, My dear son, therein you are no doubt right. But do you know to whom it now belongs after 3 years? May we move into our former dwelling? See, therefore we must spend the night here beneath the open sky, and wait until tomorrow to see where a permanent dwelling place may be found for us. Now go with your brothers and see if you can get a little wood and fire somewhere. For it is a little cool here among the hills at the elevation of this valley. Therefore we must make a fire here so we may warm ourselves a little by it. Thereupon the 4 sons returned to the same little house, and found the 2 still there. At this they made their desire known to Salome, and asked for a little wood and fire. Here Salome as well as Cornelius asked just who the group was, whether it could really be trusted. The sons answered, We come from Egypt, and place honesty above all else. We seek to purchase some sort of dwelling for ourselves here in Nazareth, for we are originally Nazarenes ourselves, but were exiled to Egypt by unavoidable circumstances for 3 years. Now our exile is over, therefore we have returned to find ourselves a place to live. When the pair heard this from the returnees, they promptly gave them sufficient wood and fire, which the sons carried to Joseph. At this Joseph promptly had a fire made, and all warmed themselves thereby. Chapter 261. Salome and Cornelius recognize the family. Salome and Cornelius now considered back and forth just who this group from Egypt might really be. Cornelius said, It seems to me that these 4 men, who seem to be rather young, have a strong resemblance to the sons of that remarkable man with whom we both associated in Bethlehem. Their speech also has an unmistakable Nazarene ring. Listen, my esteemed lady friend. This remarkable man, who was named Joseph, very probably emigrated to Egypt, as I have heard in a letter from my brother in Tyre. What if that were the same Joseph? Should we therefore not go over to these people and look at them more closely? And if they are the right ones, should we not promptly show them the most elaborate hospitality? When Salome heard this, she nearly fainted from ecstasy and declared, Oh, friend, you are surely right. It must be true, and that is surely the Holy Family. Therefore, I shall quickly awaken my servants so they can go with us to where this family rests. Thereupon Salome went and awakened all her servants. In a short time, everyone in Salome's house was on his feet, and when all were ready to leave, Cornelius said to Salome, Now let us go there and see who this family is. Thereupon Salome quickly called everyone in the house together, and the whole company went over to where Joseph rested by a moderate fire. When they arrived there, Cornelius asserted to Salome, Just look over there beside the fire. Is that not the young Mary, the wife of Joseph with her child? And yonder old man, say, is he not Joseph, that remarkable man with whom we became acquainted in Bethlehem? Here Salome opened her eyes wide and stared, and slowly recognized what Cornelius pointed out to her. But that was too much for Salome. She sank down and fainted. and Cornelius had his hands full to bring his companion on her feet again. Chapter 262. Joseph returns to his farmstead. When Salome recovered from her ecstatic faint, she said to Cornelius, "Oh, friend, just let me rest a little while, and I will go over and tell this holy family about my preservation of their little farmstead." Cornelius answered, "Listen, if you feel too weak, then let me go over in your name and tell the family what you have done for them. See, there is not time to be lost here. These eminent travellers must be very tired and need a good lodging very soon. Therefore, I will promptly go over in your name." When Salome heard this from Cornelius, she said, "Oh, friend, you are right, but I have pulled myself together now and will promptly go over with you." After this resolve, both went over to the group. Cornelius now acted as spokesman, saying, "The Lord God of Israel is with you, as also with me and my companion Salome. I succeeded in recognizing you, and there now is no more doubt that you, old and upright man, are the same Joseph, along with the young wife Mary, who 3 years ago journeyed to Egypt to escape the persecution of Herod. I have therefore hastened here to promptly receive you and lead you to your property." When Joseph heard this from Cornelius, he arose and asked him, "Good man, who are you that you may impart this to me? Announce your name to me, and I will promptly follow you." And Cornelius replied, "Most worthy old man, see, I am the prefect of Jerusalem. My name is Cornelius, and I am the same who in Bethlehem rendered you a small kindness. So do not concern yourself with anything else, for my lady friend here, Salome of Bethlehem, has faithfully carried out your request." Here Salome threw herself at Joseph's feet and declared in a trembling voice, "Joy to me, a poor sinner, that my unworthy eyes behold you again. Oh, come into your house, for my house is not worthy of such grace." At this, Joseph was stirred to tears and said, "Oh, great God and Father, how good you are! Truly, you always lead the weary traveller to the best place." Thereupon he embraced Cornelius and Salome and promptly went with them to his little farmstead. Chapter 263. The child praises Salome's love. The servants of Salome and the aides of Cornelius, and Salome and Cornelius themselves, helped expedite all of Joseph's belongings. Salome then led the group into the well-furnished rooms of the homestead. Joseph was greatly surprised at the great cleanliness which was kept in his house. For all the beds were clean and freshly made, and the stable was also kept in the best order. When Joseph had assured himself of how excellently Salome had provided for him in every way, he asked her, "Oh, dear lady friend, you can plainly see that I am poor and do not have the least wealth now. How will I ever be able to repay you?" When Salome heard this question from Joseph, she said, weeping, "Oh, my truly esteemed friend, what indeed do I have in this world which I did not receive from him who now rests on the arms of the frail Mary? And since it is forever true that I have received everything from him who is with you in such an eternally marvellous way, how could I call that mine which always belonged to him who is with you? O the Lord, the Holy One from eternity, surely did not come into a strange land to us poor sinners. Instead, he came into his very own from eternity. Therefore, we can give him nothing. Instead, we bring him only what belongs to him with the strength which he has given us. And thus every mention of a debt to me on your part is forever void, for I have already been rewarded for all eternity through the grace of the infinite, most high calling to provide for you. And that all the more, since I feel it in the whole depth of my life, that I am surely the least worthy of this holy calling. Here Salome could not continue speaking, so she was silent and wept in her love and joy. At this moment, the little child awakened and became lively. And when in a gay mood he had righted himself on Mary's lap, he looked lovingly over toward Salome and toward Cornelius and said, "O Salome, and you too, my Cornelius, see, I was asleep, but your great love has awakened me. Truly, that is sweet and pleasant, and thus it shall remain forever. From now on, I will sleep for everyone in my divine essence. But whoever will come to me with your love, for him I will remain awake forever." Salome, go to your rest now, and bring me a good breakfast tomorrow. And Salome was thoroughly enchanted that she had thus heard the Lord speak for the first time. All now honoured and praised God and then retired. Chapter 264. Salome prepares the child's favourite food. Very early the next morning, everyone in both houses had already arisen, and Salome was busy in her kitchen preparing a good breakfast of honey cakes, a tasty fish broth, and several select fish, among which the trout, which were often caught there in the mountain streams, were really the best. When breakfast was ready, Salome hastened into the house of Joseph and invited Joseph and all the members of his household to breakfast. At this, Joseph objected. "But my dear lady friend, why do you go to so much trouble because of me? See, my sons also are already busy in the kitchen and are preparing an early meal. So you really could have spared your kind hospitality." But Salome replied, "Oh, my truly esteemed friend, please do not disdain the work of your handmaiden, and come." Here Joseph was deeply moved, called everyone in his house together, and went with Salome to her house for breakfast. At the doorstep Cornelius awaited them, and welcomed them all in the most heartfelt manner. And Joseph was filled with joy because he fully recognized his friend Cornelius again in the sunlight. All now went into the attractive dining room where the breakfast awaited the guests. And when the little child beheld the fish on the table, he smiled, ran over to Salome, and said to her, "But whoever told you that I like to eat fish? There you have really made me very happy, for that is above all my favourite dish. I do of course also like to eat the honey cakes, as well as the fish broth with wheat bread, but I still would rather have the fish than any of the other foods. So it was very thoughtful of you to be so concerned for me, and I now love you for it quite especially." At this praise from the little child, Salome again was beside herself with joy and wept. Here the little child said, "Salome, see, it seems that you always weep when you are very happy about something. But you see, I am no friend of weeping. Therefore you must not always weep when something makes you happy, and I will be more fond of you still. See, I really would like to eat the fish while sitting on your lap, but I just do not trust myself to sit there, because you might weep entirely too much from all your joy. Here Salome pulled herself together as much as she could, and said to the little child, "O Lord, who indeed can behold you without tears in his eyes?" And the little child answered, "Just look at my brothers here. They also see me daily, and still do not weep when they see me." Thereupon Salome was calm again, and everyone went to the table where the little child took his place on Salome's lap. Chapter 265. Cornelius becalms Joseph's fears. When the breakfast was over, Joseph conferred with Cornelius concerning King Archelaus, and inquired closely as to what sort of man he was, and how he ruled. And Cornelius said to Joseph, "Truly, exalted man and friend, if I and my brother Cyrenius did not keep him from digressing, he would be 10 times more cruel than his father was. But as it is, we have greatly curbed his power for good reasons, and thus he may do nothing except only to collect his taxes, and that according to our estimate. And if those liable to taxation should for any reason refuse to pay the taxes, he must refer the matter to us. Failing which, we can at any time give him the emperor's dethronement document, which I always have at hand, and then declare him without power before the people. So you need not have the least fear of this king. For it just is not expedient for him to ever act against the existing statutes in any way. Or tomorrow, he is not a king any more, but instead a despised, powerless slave of Rome. Friend, I would say that you do not need any more for your peace of mind. I am now the prefect of Jerusalem, and my brother Cyrenius is, so to speak, the vice-emperor of Asia and Africa, and we are your friends. I believe that, speaking in a worldly sense, a better guarantee probably cannot be had by anyone in any country. And the by far greatest guarantee for your peace and safety surely dwells in your house. So do not worry now in the least, and follow your to me already known calling without timidity or fear. And when the taxes are determined, I shall be sure to select a column that will not hurt you." When Joseph heard this from Cornelius, he was restored to his usual happy and tranquil mood. Cornelius now discovered the 5 girls of Cyrenius, and also Eudokia, who seemed to be quite well known to him, but whom he did not recognize here. He therefore asked Joseph concerning the particular circumstances of these girls. And Joseph told him everything according to the facts, without any false modesty. When Cornelius thus learned how generously and most unselfishly Joseph acted toward his brother Cyrenius, it made him so happy that he kissed Joseph, then called his brother's children over to himself, and caressed and kissed them also. He then assured Joseph, "Because you act thus toward my brother, you shall also be tax-free for all time, like every citizen of Rome. And today I shall fasten the emperor's charter on your house myself." And Joseph was very happy thereat, as well as all those present. Chapter 266. The secret writing of the Romans. After this, Cornelius also asked Joseph whether Cyrenius already knew that Joseph had left Egypt, and if not, whether he should not be fully informed of this at once for reasons of state. And Joseph replied, "Friend, act toward your brother as you wish, but I would really ask you to tell him in any event not to visit me too soon. But if he really wishes to come, then have him come under cover of darkness, so no one will notice his presence with me. And my house will not attract any most undesirable attention because of it, which would be harmful to me and the child, and could have a disturbing effect on the divine peace of my house." When Cornelius heard this from Joseph, he assured him, "Oh, my venerable friend, do not concern yourself there. For in the matter of sending a message to someone strictly incognito, we Romans are masters. And as soon as I arrive in Jerusalem tomorrow, my first business, of which no one shall know, will be to inform my brother by means of a secret document that you are here. With such a document, I would send Archelaus himself to my brother, if it came to that, and he would not know what is written thereon, even though the writing were in his hands unsealed." Here Joseph asked Cornelius how such a secret writing were possible. And Cornelius answered, "Oh, venerable friend, nothing is easier than that. See, one takes a long strip of parchment about a finger wide, and wraps this strip spirally about a round staff, so the edges exactly touch each other. Once the strip is thus wholly wound over the round staff, one then writes his secret along the length of the staff, across all the windings of the strip of parchment. Now Cyrenius also has a staff of exactly the same thickness as mine. Once I have finished the document, it is unrolled from the staff and sent quite openly to my brother through someone, and no one is then capable of even remotely deciphering contents of such a document without an identical staff. For he discovers nothing on the strip except mostly single letters and at most syllables, which are certain not to make any sense to him in eternity as concerns the writing on the strip. Joseph, did you understand me?" And Joseph said, "Quite perfectly, my very dear brother. So you may as well write to your brother, for thus the secret will surely not be deciphered by anyone." Thereupon Cornelius turned to Eudokia and discussed various matters with her. Chapter 267. The child's promise to Cornelius. When Cornelius had sufficiently discussed everything with Eudokia which he felt he should know, and saw therefrom that her statements were in perfect agreement with the letter from his brother, he turned to Joseph again and said to him, "Venerated man, now I am altogether in the clear in everything. I do not want to ask you how and why you left Egypt again, even though you were provided there with everything in every way. For I know that you do not do otherwise than your God commands you to do. And since you act thus exactly according to the will of your God, so also are your actions always good and just before God, and that part of the world which thinks, wills, and acts according to established law as I do. But I still would like to ask you about one thing before my departure to Jerusalem, which is this. See, I still see before me all of the wondrous manifestations which took place at your child's birth, as if they just happened. But now I see that this so miraculous quality seems to have wholly disappeared from him. Tell me, how is that to be understood?" And Joseph answered, Oh, friend, how can you ask so strangely there? Did you not hear the child speak with Salome a little while ago? Do all children of men speak with such depth of wisdom at this age? Do you not find such speech from the mouth of a 3-year-old child just as remarkable as each manifestation at the birth in Bethlehem? Here Cornelius said, "There you are no doubt right, but as far as that goes, this wonder is nothing new to me. You see, on several occasions in Rome, I have already heard children who were 1 year old and who were born under quite ordinary circumstances say truly remarkable things. For that reason, your extraordinary child has not fulfilled my great expectations here." At this, the little child came to Cornelius and said to him, "Cornelius, be satisfied with the burden which I have placed upon your shoulders. For you would have to become a mountain of granite if you wanted to load a larger burden of my will up on your shoulders. So do not ask more of me before the proper time. And at the right time, I shall surely do enough for you and for all the world." When Cornelius heard this, he inquired no more, and soon thereafter had his belongings put in order for his departure. Chapter 268. Joseph's house receives a Roman charter. In 2 hours Cornelius was ready for the journey, but in the meantime he went with Joseph to the latter's house, where he, as promised, affixed a little iron plaque with the emperor's picture and name to the door. This little plaque was the imperial symbol of immunity, or the same as a charter according to which the king of that particular country holding a Roman tenure was not permitted to exercise any right over such a house. When Cornelius finished with this task, he took his stylus and wrote on the door underneath the plaque in the Roman language, "Tabulum hanc libertatis Romanae secundum judicum Caesaris Augusti suamque voluntatem affigit Cornelius Archidux Hierosolimae in plena potestate urbis Romae." When Cornelius also finished this inscription, he said to Joseph, "Now, my esteemed friend, your house and your calling are free from any sort of tax which Archelaus might levy upon you. You need only see to the payment of the yearly denarius as tribute to Rome, which it is to be hoped you will easily be able to spare. This denarius you can deposit either in Jerusalem itself or also here in Nazareth at the imperial office, which will give you a receipt. And thus you are now freed from all persecutions on the part of the tenure king. But affix a little grating over the plaque, so no one will steal it from you and spoil my signature." Joseph thanked the Lord God in his heart for so much grace, and blessed Cornelius therefore. Here the little child also went over to Cornelius and said to him, "Now listen to me a little, for I want to tell you something also as a great reward. See, you now have done the house of Joseph a great kindness, and I shall, in days to come, also do in like manner to your whole house. Even if this house is not the property of my foster father, but only the property of Salome because she has bought it, just the same, I shall make good many times on your very own house what you have done for this house of Salome. You have fastened the imperial symbol of immunity to the door of the house with your own hand, and have added your signature to it. So also shall I, in days to come, spread out my Spirit over your whole house, through which you will receive the eternal freedom of the heavens of God, and with it, the eternal, imperishable life in my kingdom. Here Cornelius picked up the little child, and kissed him, and smiled at his strange promise. For how could he actually have understood what the little child had spoken to him in such divine depth of wisdom? And the little child said, "You will understand that only when my Spirit will come over you." Thereupon the little child ran over to his James again. Cornelius now took his leave, and Joseph began to order everything in the house according to his needs.